Hey, successful breastfeeding community. I am on live today to talk about nursing your toddler. I hope the last 10 seconds recorded. If not, oh well. So, hello. I was hoping to use my new GoPro that I just bought for this live video, and I could not figure it out. I joke all the time that even though I run an online company and we are a telehealth practice, I'm really not that tech savvy, and it's a joke, but it's also true. I really love user-friendly platforms. I will figure out the GoPro. I'm not calling this a defeat. But for the purposes of this live video, I'm just using my webcam on my computer. So here we are. If you are here with me, please let me know. I love knowing that you guys are watching and interacting, liking the video. So give me a like, leave me a comment, and feel free to comment throughout this conversation. If you have any questions that pop up for you during this conversation, throw them in as a comment. I'll address them if I can during this live, and if not during the live, in the comments afterwards. So let's dive in. We are going to talk about all the things that you guys were asking me last week about breastfeeding a toddler. There's not a lot of information out there about breastfeeding a toddler, and definitely not enough discussion about it. Even in our group, I feel like there's not enough discussion about it. So we were spending the last 2 weeks talking about breastfeeding a toddler and all the things we need to know when it comes to nursing our toddler. And so let's dive into these questions. I'm going to step right into question number 1, which is a really great question. I'm so glad somebody asked this question. And the question is milk still beneficial after age 1? This is great. Surprisingly, or I guess I should say not surprisingly, we very often hear from parents that they are given the advice from various places, sometimes their providers, sometimes family friends, that breast milk after age 1 is no longer beneficial, which just blows my mind because there's no magic switch in our body that takes our milk from being this really amazing, literal miracle milk to suddenly worthless and useless. It's just not a thing that happens. Our milk continues to be beneficial throughout the entirety of our breastfeeding journey. If you are nursing a 4-year-old, which is the world average of weaning, by the way, your milk is still going to be beneficial at that point. What is true is that your milk does change when you get into the toddler phase, and your milk does change as your baby starts to nurse a little bit less and become more reliant on foods, and it changes based entirely on your baby's needs. Now, you're still going to have all those antibodies, antiviral factors, anti-allergenic factors, all of those living properties, probiotics and things are still going to continue to remain in your breast milk throughout your entire journey. But the nutrients change. The water content changes. There is a saliva feedback that happens when you are nursing your baby. So some of the openings on your nipple release your milk, and some of the openings on your nipple actually take baby's saliva and suck it up into your body, and your body turns into like a supercomputer to calculate exactly what your baby needs during that particular feeding, which is how your milk is able to shift and change once you get to the toddler stage. Your body, especially in the toddler stage, there's a lot of thought that the way our body produces milk changes. We're no longer a constant milk-making machine, and rather the less your baby nurses, you start to just make it kind of on demand. When they come to the breast, your body's like, oh, baby's back, let's perk this up and get this milk moving and flowing. And based on that saliva feedback, your body will tailor the feed to be exactly what your baby needs. So if your baby is lacking in a couple of nutrients, your breast milk will fill that gap. If they need a little bit more water, they'll get a little bit more water in their milk. Or if they're drinking plenty of fluids already and eating a lot of solids on their own and not nursing as much, they're going to get a concentrated dose of nutrients and antibodies during their nursing session. So it is still extremely beneficial and healthy to them as their growth, development, and immune system throughout the duration of breastfeeding. And this is research-based. All right, so next question. Should they nurse at night? And there is no black and white answer to this question. The answer is, should they nurse at night? Well, that's entirely up to you. Once you get to the toddler stage and you're after a year old, Generally, babies are eating solids, and they're pretty good at eating solids and drinking water and all of that. And if that's the case, and your baby doesn't nutritionally need your milk because they are obviously eating more, then no, you don't have to nurse your baby at night, but you can. So the answer to this question is that's up to you. Are you comfortable nursing at night? If you are, great, go for it. Are you not comfortable nursing at night? Okay, that's a choice that you need to make as the breastfeeding parent. You get to decide because breastfeeding is a relationship. And once you get to the toddler phase, though that milk is still really important and beneficial, it really is more about your relationship with your toddler. And so you get to decide, is this still working for me? If it is, great, keep nursing your baby at night. Which is a great segue into our next question, which is, can they get cavities from night feeding? So we hear this a lot from dentists, that nursing your baby at night is the reason why they're getting cavities. And okay, I'll give them this. There is some truth to that. However, and this is a really big however, there is a lot of research that shows and supports breastfeeding as being very beneficial to the development of your toddler's teeth. So continued breastfeeding really isn't the problem. So if breastfeeding isn't the problem, where does the truth lie in this? The truth lies in the fact that milk tends to be high in sugar. And when you have stuff on the teeth left over from eating throughout the day, and that sugar from the milk gets with all that stuff left on their teeth, that can cause a really supportive environment for decay. Okay, so it's not breast milk that's causing this. It's not nursing through the night that's causing this. It's all of the gunk left on baby's teeth from any food that they consume during the day. So an easy solution to this problem is to brush your baby's teeth. Brush your baby's teeth before they go to bed. And if you're really concerned, one suggestion that I've made to other families is, if you're going to nurse at night or nurse right before bed, also give your baby a sip of water if they need it. Or take a cloth and just kind of rub it on their teeth. And you can do that while they're sleeping if it doesn't bother them. Or just brush your baby's teeth really well and don't give them any snacks or juice or anything sugary after that teeth brushing, and then you don't have to worry about that. Next question is, should I night wean? I kind of already talked about this one a little bit is when I answered, should I be nursing at night? As far as night weaning goes, that is totally up to you. How do you feel about night weaning? Do you love it? Or do you love nursing at night? If you do, great. If you don't, then let's consider night weaning as a possibility for you and your baby. It's totally up to you what you want to do in that situation. Then as far as the how to night wean your baby, that is, again, something for you to decide how you want to go throughout that process. My personal recommendation for night weaning is to take it slow, and especially if you have an older baby, have lots of conversations about it and find something that you can replace nursing with at night. Not necessarily a bottle, but maybe a lovey or something else, or maybe you can replace the night nursing with night snuggles. There's lots of different ways to go about night nursing. If you go cold turkey, which is an option, it can be really hard on your baby. So, you know, if you're going to go that route, and sometimes that's just an absolute necessary, either because of your own mental sanity, mental health, or other reasons, then, you know, obviously that's a good thing for you in those situations, but that in those cases, you're really going to want to find a replacement for nursing. So as far as night weaning goes, there is no right or wrong. There's so much gray area, and there's a ton of different ways to go about doing it. Next question, how often should they be nursing? Okay, so again, gray area question here. And it's going to depend entirely on, number one, how old is your baby? Because if they have been nursing like 8 times a day up until they're about 1, to dramatically cut them off and shorten their nursing sessions without making any changes to their diet would not be advised. Generally speaking, we tend to follow a toddler's lead once we get to that point where they're 1 year old, and we start putting more focus into food, putting more focus into offering water. If you want to offer an alternative milk, you can. You can offer cow's milk, almond milk, hemp milk, goat milk, oat milk, whatever if you want. Knowing though that offering these things is not necessary as long as your baby has a well-rounded diet and they're continuing to nurse and drinking plenty of water. All of these things are just a supplemental drink for them to have with their solid foods. It's not something that is necessary for them at that point. But as far as how often they should be nursing, that's up to you. That's up to your toddler. That's up to their age. If they're, just turned 1, they're probably going to be nursing a little bit more than if they're, 18 months or 2. Once you get to that stage, you may just be nursing once in the morning and once in the evening, and that's it. Or maybe you nurse in the morning, nap time, evening, or maybe you're nursing a lot more than that, or once a day. It really doesn't matter. Once you get even farther than that, sometimes they'll only nurse once every other day or once every few days. It really just depends on their personality. It depends on your relationship, and it depends on how you feel about it too. Okay, so next question, when should I wean? And I'm going to go back to repeating the same thing. That's up to you. Totally up to you. Or you can leave it up to your baby. Either way, there is no right or wrong answer. I tried to do a live video last week. I wasn't at home. I was working out at my dad's house and the Wi-Fi wasn't as great. I made 2 attempts to talk about my own personal weaning journeys and it did not go well. The videos didn't post. I went into breastfeeding with the intention of allowing my children to wean on their own. And the only baby of mine that actually did that was my last baby. And she did that way earlier than I ever thought that she would. And so that was a really interesting experience for me. But the other 2, I had started out with the intention that I would let them self-wean. And I ended up choosing to wean both of them around the age of 2.5 because I just decided I couldn't take it anymore. There were some things going on in my life and I really just needed my body back. I was tandem nursing when I weaned my oldest, and so I was just really done nursing both of them and wanted to focus on my second kid and just nursing her. And then once she got to be about 2, I was like, I'm done, totally done, want my body back. And then my last baby weaned at age 1, and she was just done. She wanted nothing to do with the breast anymore, and I literally couldn't force it on her. And part of me was really sad about it, but then there was this other part of me that was just like, whoa, I've got my body back. This is crazy. So when it comes to weaning your baby, that is something that you need to decide. Breastfeeding is very much a relationship, and it takes 2 people, or 3 or more if you have multiple babies. It takes 2 people to make that work. So if you're not feeling good about breastfeeding anymore and you're in the toddler stage or at any point in your breastfeeding journey, not just the toddler stage, you have to be feeling really good about this, because if you go into breastfeeding and you hate it and you dread it and it's damaging you personally, mentally, emotionally, by all means, stop. It's okay. You don't need anyone's permission to wean your baby. The only person's permission you need is yours or your babies, although sometimes we fight it when our babies are saying that they want to be done. But really, go with the flow and trust in yourself, and you'll know when it's time, or your baby will tell you when they're ready to be done. And then the last one I wanted to talk about is, what if I don't love nursing a toddler, or I don't want to nurse a toddler at all? You know what? That's fine. Not everybody wants to nurse through the toddler stage. And having had the experience of both nursing a toddler and having a baby who didn't nurse as a toddler, there's benefits to doing both, right? Personally, there's, obviously that benefit of, hey, come here, get out of that, I want to nurse, and your toddler's going to be like, oh, look, a boob, I'm going to definitely stop destroying this thing over here and come over and nurse. That was like the one thing that I loved about nursing a toddler, is I could use a boob as a distraction anytime that I wanted to get my kid out of doing something really terrible. Or if we were at an event and overwhelmed, it was something that I could take a break and go nurse my toddler. Or, being stuck in line at a grocery store. I remember one time specifically, they were just the line was endless, and I had my like 14-month-old strapped to my chest and my 3-year-old sitting in the cart, and I was losing it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna nurse this one so this one stops freaking out. I'm gonna give the other one my phone. And it was just one of those moments of like serendipity, because I was able to, and breastfeeding is definitely part of that. Whereas my last baby, she wanted nothing to do with breastfeeding after the age of 1. And so I don't have that skill with her. So that's something that I definitely struggle with when it comes to um, that aspect of it. But I will also say I didn't totally love nursing my toddlers. It was a, love-hate relationship. There were things about it that I really did like. I did love that continued bonding and all of that I had with them. I loved that I was still able to provide them, immune system benefits through my milk. I loved all of that, but there were also moments when it was really hard. And for the most part, I did decide that pushing through those moments was okay, and that it was something that I just needed to talk out or get out or vent, because having a toddler, breastfeeding or not, is overwhelming. So for my first two, I'm glad that I nursed them as long as I did, and I'm also really glad that I chose to wean them when I did. And for this last baby, I don't hate that she didn't continue on past 1, but there are times where I'm like, man, I wish I had this skill of just, hey, you want to breastfeed for a second so we can sit down for 5 minutes because I'm about to lose my mind. But I'm saying this to you because not everybody loves nursing a toddler. Even me, I didn't love it all the time, right? And so if that's how you feel, that's okay. And I want you to know that it's okay. And I want you to know that you're definitely not alone. And there's also many of you in this community who didn't want to nurse after age 1. And that's also okay. And it's great that you knew that about yourself going into it, and you knew you were ready to stop and you had a plan for it. All of that is fine. Just because there is, so much pressure from our society to breastfeed doesn't mean you have to take any of that pressure, because at the end of the day, this is about you and your relationship with your baby, period. So if you have any further questions, let me know. I would love to hear from you, and see if there was something I didn't address in this video that you would love me to, make a post about, or something in that, come back live, talk about it, whatever. Let me know so I can make sure that we are covering that content in this toddler showdown that we've been having over the past couple of weeks. If you watched this and stuck through, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, head to the website, successfulbreastfeeding.org. Grab one of our freebies. If you are watching this out of curiosity for what's ahead, we have a brand new freebie. It's the bottle refusal freebie, and it is great. And I would bet that some of these people who have toddlers would have wished I would have made this about a year ago. So sorry that it took me this long to get it out, but it is out, it is ready, it is alive. You can go grab it. So go to successfulbreastfeeding.org, click on the freebies tab, download the bottle refuser freebie or any of the other awesome freebies that we have. Listen to the podcast while you're there too. We have some really great episodes, and we have some really cool toddler content on the podcast as well, including the picky eater episode, which is probably one of the all-time top episodes that's on the podcast. That and how to get your desire back after having a baby is another top contender. So go to the blog, go to the website, listen to the podcast, and I will see you guys next time.